Welcome, travelers, to another episode of the Time Travel Trio podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Hyde.
And we're
the Time Travel Trio.
Welcome on.
Woo!
All right.
Doing it.
We're doing an episode that at least one of our fans is very excited for us to be on.
Yes.
So.
I chose Timecop, the 1994 Van Damme movie. I've never seen this. JCVD.
Yeah.
Sure, as he's commonly known. I've never seen this movie before. As Hyde said, it was recommended to us. Have you seen it, though? I
have seen it. It's like one of those movies that's like, I don't know if this might be the first time I've ever watched it from like beginning to end, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've definitely never seen it. I didn't really know. I mean, I kind of had an idea of what was going to happen just because it's like a 90s action movie, and I don't know. I feel like it would have been like, I don't know, sloppy, but like not really terrible time travel rules. So like, I don't know, because they have to just do something that like is cool to do in an action movie. So, I I wasn't super surprised, but yeah, it was,
yeah,
it's a 90s action movie.
For those who don't know, Timecop is about Max Walker, an officer for a security agency that regulates time travel, who must fend for his life against a shady politician who's intent on changing the past to control the future.
Ooh.
It's directed by Peter Hyams,
who also directed A Sound of Thunder.
Ah, yeah,
him and his time ripples.
Yep, his time waves.
He likes weird time travel entrances.
Yeah, he loves walking. He loves walking into the past.
Yes, he does.
Literally.
He does do like doing that.
That's true. That's funny. I think you mentioned that at the end of our last episode, but I didn't remember that, and so now, thinking about this movie after seeing it, it does have a similar sort of vibe.
Yeah,
this is. I will say this is superior to The Sound of Thunder.
It is, yeah. I mean, it definitely is. But I still have issues with it. But yeah, like there are I didn't think about it while watching it. But yeah, like when you enter the past, you're walking through this portal, which is basically what happened in Sound of Thunder. Mm-hmm. Like you walk through this hole in space time. It's like, yeah.
Maybe he's the same VFX team. Maybe he's just like,
probably.
Hey, you guys. I know it's like 10 years later. Let's just do the same special effects he did in 1994.
Yeah, right.
Well, at least there weren't fish people in this movie.
Oh, thank God. Or gorilla
raptors.
Yeah,
baboon raptors.
Oh man, that was a really good bad movie.
Really good bad movie with a $60 million budget somehow.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Did you like this movie?
Yes and no. Some things I liked about it. I do like 90s action movies. I know this isn't to do with time travel, but I love Jackie Chan movies. I grew up watching them, and so I couldn't help but think about how superior his movies are to, like, American action movies. Mm-hmm. Because in these, there's so many quick cuts, you can't watch the action. You just see, like, a movement and you see reaction. In Jackie Chan movies, you see the whole thing. You see him get hit. You see him fall. You see him, like, do the motion. So I'm like, it isn't, like, Jackie Chan movies are so much better than this. Like, I mean, 90s action movies are what they are, but when I'm watching martial arts, I want to see the whole thing. I want to, like, see the wide shot. I want to see, I don't know. So
yeah.
I couldn't help but think about that when I watched it.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a passable movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of JCV's best. I'm actually a big fan of his film Sudden Death, which came out around this time. I think if you really want to see like a really, really good Van Damme like action film where you get to see more of the stunt work, watch that. It's not bad. It's a great concept, actually. It is a really good concept. I'll talk about that more. Mm-hmm. It's a really good concept, and this is one of the few movies that I wish they would remake. They always remake movies that no one asked to have remade. Like, they remade The Mummy's out right now. Mm-hmm. A movie no one asked to be remade from Brendan Fraser. But this is a movie that would benefit for being remade because it's such a cool concept with which just maybe a more careful handling and better special effects and maybe more John Wick-style action scenes where you can see what's going on. It could be a real, like, winner. So,
Who do you think would play him in a remake?
Ooh, I don't know.
I mean, I know that he doesn't do American movies, but he is a foreigner. Tony Jaa would be amazing, but I want to see him in every movie. So it's like, his action is insane.
What about what's his face? IP Man. Because he just did Rogue One, and he had a pretty good American accent in that.
Yeah, he'd be good.
Yeah, I agree. I think this would be good to be remade. P.S. Have you seen recent pictures of Brendan Fraser? Because he looks rough.
He got Brendan Fraser. There's this whole like campaign on Reddit and like Imgur to save Brendan Fraser's career because Brendan Fraser had a horrible divorce where his wife took everything, and this crazy like crackpot judge made it so Brendan Fraser has to pay his ex-wife $50,000 a month for her to sustain her living. So he's had it rough the past few years. He's like hasn't really been acting because he's been dealing with like just like this earth-shattering like divorce and like alimony.
Wow.
So like I know he just got an FX show and all this other stuff.
Okay.
So hopefully this will kind of get Brendan Fraser back to the Brendan Fraser we know and love.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say it. Don't think it'll be a surprise to many people. Didn't like this movie.
What? What?
And
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked, Jen.
And you guys know, I love action movies far and away, but I've never been a big Van Damme person. Sorry, Bobby, I know you're gonna be mad at me. But I didn't care about him. I didn't like the movie. I agree I liked the concept. I liked the idea of, I think Matt mentioned this when we were watching, of like bad guys being able to utilize the time travel. I liked that a lot. But, and I don't even really, because I feel like every episode now I have to talk about how poorly women are written in these movies, but this movie is definitely not an exception. Women are barely in this movie at all. But I didn't like it. I was bored. I was really bored. I was on my phone a lot of the time. I just didn't care. Like, when there was an action sequence, I wasn't in it. I didn't feel the suspense or anything. I thought it was a really boring movie. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm leaning towards where you're at, Jen, just because, I don't know, a lot of things irked me about, like, the time travel stuff, and, like, Van Damme, I know that he's, like, this is, like, his wheelhouse, but, like, his one-liners are dumb. Like, I mean, I guess it was just probably like the 90s, but I'm just like, when your one-liner is, that's gotta hurt. Like,
it was just
are you
lame.
trying to be really cheesy?
It was lame. I felt like, especially in the beginning of the movie, before the house explodes in the beginning, like the first, like, 5-10 minutes, it felt like I was watching a foreign movie that was being dubbed because the acting was so poor.
Well, he might have dubbed his lines. I don't know. He might have ADR'd him.
Sometimes he sounds very American, and sometimes he has his heavy accent, so I do think some of the lines were probably dubbed, because it just was very jarring. But, like, even Mia Sara was extremely disappointing and forgetful. Like, her acting in the beginning of the movie was so... Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say it felt like I was watching, like, maybe a French movie, and I was, like, watching American voices dubbing it over because it was so awful. But anyway, let's watch the trailer.
We're all alone, no chaperone, can't get our number. The world's in slumber, let's misbehave. There's something wild about you, child, that's so contagious. Let's be outrageous.
How you doing, partner?
Ex-partner.
Let me go, Max. I'm not hurting anybody.
Got to take you back.
In the year 2004, time travel is a reality.
You are charged with violations of TEC Code 40.8, time travel with intent to alter the future.
And a crime.
It turns out going back in time is a pretty easy way to make money.
I think you got yourself a shipment of gold that you're taking to General Lee.
The genie is already out of the bottle. The technology is there.
Now, one man
You ever hear the name Aaron McComb?
is about to take the ultimate power trip.
He's gonna be president.
You don't need the press, you don't need endorsements, you don't even need the truth. You need money.
But to enforce the laws of time,
Are we still together in 10 years? Am I dead?
one man is determined to stop him.
I cannot go back to save her.
This scumbag is not going back to steal money.
Stay here, Walker. My future, you're dead.
I think you planned too far ahead.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, Ron Silver,
You get him!
Mia Sara,
Oh,
Timecop.
There's so many things I want to talk
I'm
about.
really upset they didn't get the trailer guy to say Timecop. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You build him up and he doesn't say Timecop?
What a disappointing end.
Well, it was in the 90s. It wasn't the early 2000s yet.
Yeah, that's true. The tagline was
Timecop.
"Turn back the clock in your history." It doesn't even make sense, though.
Yep. Exactly.
It's like most taglines are like that if you actually really read them and like, what does that mean?
If I could turn back time. Can I also say the trailer clearly uses the music from Aliens? If you listen to the Alien soundtrack and you listen to the track Feudal Escape, which is like when they are running from the aliens when they come up through the ceiling.
Okay.
That is the exact same track
Wow.
that they use in this trailer.
Good
Which is
ear.
weird because this is a Universal movie. Like, I would understand if it was a Fox movie, but it's Universal. What?
Yeah.
Why did they? It's like someone was literally like, "Oh, Alien has good music. Let's
All right, let's use
Alien
that, yeah.
has some good sound."
I mean, in 1994, I guess they didn't really anticipate that people would continue to watch trailer after it was already out in theaters.
That's
Yeah,
true.
there's
You know
probably
what I
like
mean?
less guidelines about like what they can and can't use in them.
Because back then you saw it before a movie, and that was pretty much it.
Pretty
Maybe
much it.
on TV,
Maybe on
but,
TV.
but that,
Maybe on VHS.
yeah, but like you wouldn't see it on YouTube or whatever. So
That's a
YouTube
very
didn't
good
make
point,
sense.
actually.
So, but still, you can use music from the movie itself. Like, I don't know, whatever. I do want to talk about, it's in that trailer. If you guys want to look it up, it's, if you look for Timecop trailer, I think it's the first one, official trailer that pops up on YouTube. But there's a scene where he goes back in time and then he's like right in front of a big like truck.
Yeah.
And he falls down on the ground and is fine. But it's just the most, I mean, there's a lot of things in this movie that aren't, obviously it's not real looking.
Right.
But like that one was a little bit much, even for me to like just
Right.
to suspend disbelief.
You're like, what?
That's the most fake thing ever. Like, come on.
He also does it pretty casually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, truck.
Oh,
I'll
oops.
just drop to the ground. Oh yeah, that's what everyone would think when they saw a truck headed towards them.
Like, yeah, he could. Anyway, so that trailer's pretty funny. I liked Ron Silver.
Yeah,
and
he has
his
a lot of fun
performance.
with this part.
Yeah, I thought he was definitely the most enjoyable part of the movie. I almost wish we could have followed him instead of, I don't know. Like, I think it would be interesting to follow the bad guy and like realize that he's the bad guy, but you almost have sympathy for him.
Right.
But this movie is kind of different because it's an action movie. We're going to follow the hero, etc. But it definitely hit close to home some of the things he wanted to do and what he was attempting to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Use
to
money to
become
buy the presidency.
A lot of the things, if you rewatch this movie, a lot of the things that he does to become president, that's still.
It's like it's pretty par for the course. Like,
yeah.
I mean, when we were talking about this before we recorded it, he's not even like, other than like his, like, I know this is like a big thing to overlook, but other than like him willing to murder people because of like the time and shit, like he's really not the worst person. Like,
No, he's not that. He's not a good guy,
No,
but he's
definitely
not that bad because we've seen a lot of worse bad guys in these movies. But he's smart.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he's doing. He's thought it through for the most part.
Yeah, he's not one of those people who, he doesn't take a lot of time to like. He doesn't do a lot of like, even though he has a couple of monologues, he never like makes like really, really bad decisions, which I always appreciate.
Yeah, like he has a lot of people in his pocket by the time we get to these events that we're seeing play out.
Yeah.
Like the Timecop woman,
Fieldings?
Yeah, Fielding, yeah.
Or
Yeah, and
Fletcher or something.
and if it wasn't for Van Damme, like, one-upping him and having his younger self be there, he would have, like, totally gotten away with it.
Yeah, right. And I liked that his henchmen didn't hesitate before actually shooting the younger version of Max.
Right.
Like in the beginning of the movie, they're like, okay, you're dead, and they shoot him. And I was
Right.
like, oh, that's a pleasant surprise. A lot of time in movies, they'll, like, pause, or they'll, like, wait
Put him in the car.
dramatically,
Yes.
or, like, not shoot him right away to give the hero time to get away, or, disarm them, whatever. But this one, they shot him and walked away, and I was
Right.
like, I appreciate that, actually.
Some smart henchmen earning their paycheck.
Yeah, right? They actually, like, they followed him, and they knew what they were doing. Like, they weren't dumb idiots. Like, these guys could function on their own without him telling them what to do the whole time.
Right.
So, let's get into the time travel. So, a scientist invents time travel.
Yeah. Before the movie begins, it's been invented. We come in when they have to create a time agency to police it because apparently it's easy enough for other people to just invent it.
Yeah, that's what
I
I was gonna ask. Is like, so one guy invented it, and then did he sell it to these bad guys, or is it just like he invented it and now anyone can figure out how to use it if they have enough money?
It seems really easy to do.
Like, yeah, it's weird, like how common it is. It's not that common, but it's common enough that a lot of people use it.
It isn't like the inventor's partner ran away and like copied his work. It's just like bad guys just have it and they use it. Like people in Germany use it, and like people, I don't know. It isn't just other scientists. It's just like villains have it.
Yeah, and that was never really explained.
Yeah.
I put in my notes, I didn't understand why they wouldn't, if it's causing all of these problems, why wouldn't they just go and stop the person from inventing it in the first place?
Yeah.
Occam's razor. But like, you know what I mean?
No, I know what you're saying.
It's true.
But it's also like once the genie's out of the bottle, can you ever really prevent it from happening?
Which I think is what they actually say in the movie too.
Well, it depends how these other people got the time travel. If they all like just bought it off of this scientist or whatever, then like say that or address it somehow. Like, can't we go back and stop, the person from inventing it? No, whatever. Like give some sort of a bullshit reason.
Or at least leaking the patent.
Yeah, right? Or something.
But I mean, like, I guess in these laws of physics, it's not hard to do if they just figured it out in 1994, or like, I guess, over the 20 years before that point. So maybe it's going to happen either way. Like, someone at some point will figure it out. So they have to have this agency to monitor it, I guess, be on the toes.
Yeah. So I want to play a clip before we dive into the rules, because this kind of explains a lot of it, so I think we should play it first.
Yeah, it kind of sets up the world.
The guy talks fairly fast, so just make sure you're listening closely, and we can maybe play it again if we need to.
You all remember Dr. Hans Kleindast, the Nobel laureate who helped us during the space program? Well, for the past 20 years, he's been trying to keep his face off the cover of Time magazine doing research. His field of research has been time travel.
Time travel?
Yeah, time travel.
Well, beam me up, Scotty.
That's very funny, Senator. You want to know what's funnier than that, though?
I get the feeling he's going to tell us.
The funny thing is, the good doctor actually did it. I thought that'd get your attention. That's right. He did it. His technology is all in the folders in front of you. You won't understand it any better than I can. Now, you can't go forward because the future hasn't happened yet. However, you can go back, and that's where things get real tricky. It turns out if you go back and you change something, it's serious. It could be catastrophic. It's like throwing a stone in a lake, and it causes ripples in the water, only now they're ripples in time. So you can't go back and kill Hitler, much as we'd all like to, because for all we know, it could cause a chain reaction of events that could alter or even destroy mankind.
There's a lot of things I want to talk about, but the basic idea is that they don't go forward in time, they can only go back, because the future hasn't happened yet. I can get behind that concept. We've talked about this before, and I think that logically, with this movie, is sound enough that I can follow that.
Yeah, I think in terms of a sci-fi movie, that's a good rule to have.
Yeah.
Just because it knocks out half of the questions you would have about, like, their time travel, Like, okay, it's only in the past, things can change, but the present is always going, and, like, you can only affect it so that way it ends up being different, but it's kind of like, it sets a flagpole, like, okay, here's the present day, you go back, you mess things up, and then you go back to the present day, and that's how it is,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you just return, you don't, like, necessarily set a return to, October 30th, 2004. You just go to the past and you return back home, quote unquote.
You're like tethered, and then it's like a rubber band. You stretch, you go back, and you get pulled back to where you came from.
Yeah. What I don't like is that he's talking about how certain things, if you go back in time and change them, it causes a ripple. But the fact that they've invented time travel and are going back at all is changing the past.
Right.
So it kind of negates them saying, don't use time travel because it'll cause these ripple effects. Like, we can't kill Hitler. And I'm like, okay.
It's always the first thing everyone goes to. Can we kill Hitler?
I love, by the way, there's a Doctor Who episode called Let's Kill Hitler. Very good episode. Just a side note. But so they create this guy's talking to all these people because he wants funding for
the agency,
quote unquote, Timecops.
TEC.
TEC, Time Enforcement Commission. So, like, they are cops who enforce time and
They
stop.
somehow monitor people in the past. How do they figure that out?
Yeah, they kind of. There's a scene or two of them, like, monitoring certain.
We have another
events,
person
like,
at this point in
some
time.
person just made $50 million overnight. Why did that happen? And they kind of investigated a little bit. But some of it's very specific. So, yeah, I don't know how...
It would be interesting if they were able to, like, use, like, anytime, like, there's a ripple, it, like, sends off a signal. Like, someone's used a time machine somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would have been... I mean,
it's
it would have been...
some sort of a... something in the...
Right, I
in the
mean,
world.
it would have been junk science, but in a movie like this, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that I could have followed that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we had multiple sex scenes and gratuitous naked women. So
Don't forget JCVD's sweet ass and those.
Yeah, you gotta have JCVD ass. Like, I think in the sex scene, like, the first thing you see is his ass, just like...
Why?
Yeah, I think it's in his contract.
It's what the people want to see.
I'm pretty sure it's in his contract.
This movie doesn't need to be rated R. It's rated R, by the way. It doesn't need to be.
It doesn't need to be rated R. It should be PG-13.
A little absurd.
Yeah, the dude that had, like, porn at his desk, and, like, his introduction to just seeing a naked girl in VR, it's like, okay, is it only just to show that he becomes this, like, buttoned-up guy in this alternate reality? Like, you don't need to show this, like, creepy dude with, like, clearly HR violations at his desk.
That is the
you can't.
That is the last person I want monitoring time travel.
Yeah, you can't have someone with erotica at their desk.
Yeah,
even if it is sci-fi ladies.
He had the VR, but he also had printout. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Like, he had, like,
it was on his
like
desk.
pictures
you
printed out.
can hide the VR, but you can't hide the printouts, man. The printouts are there.
It's like covering,
don't do that at work.
It covers part of his monitor. It's
but
like
you can't wait. You can't wait until you get home.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a thing. But okay, so
yeah, in terms of the time travel stuff, I mean, one of my biggest gripes is when they actually they go to and from the past. They use this rocket car, and they go through this ripple, and then they end up walking through this ripple on the way out.
Let's talk about the rocket car.
Where does the rocket car go?
Because the car, they're in it and they leave, and when they come out the other side, they're walking around or they fall into the lake or whatever it is, but there's no car. And then when they go back, they're back in the car. How does that make sense at all?
No, it doesn't.
It's like in that one movie Envy or whatever with Ben Stiller and Jack Black. Where does the poo go? Like, right. where does the car go?
Yeah, it's kind of like in Sound of Thunder, actually, thinking about it, because in that movie they're in this big thing, they're like in these machines, and then they walk through a tunnel.
Yeah, they just stroll through,
and then they walk back into a tunnel.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all.
He doesn't worry about getting back in time.
No, clearly.
Peter Hyams loves walking through.
He just likes the shot of the car coming back and appearing, and like that's the most of it. But yeah, so that's the technical how. There's not really much of the science that they explain to us at all. It just kind of is...
it's in the folders and we won't understand it. That's the most we get.
Which is actually very clever.
I mean, like, for the character that's explaining it makes sense. He's not the scientist. He's just a government guy. He's being smart. He's being snarky. It makes sense in that scene.
Yeah, he's saying it is...
It doesn't matter. The point is I need money.
Right.
I like, though, rewatching that clip just now, too. It kind of... You can tell that they purposefully had him playing off of the, like, deep southern hick drawl guy who's, like, talks really slow and is, like, stupid. And, like, that's a very... Yeah,
I'm
it's
a
very
good old boy.
cliche. Yeah. Yeah, so that's...
It's character building 101.
Yeah. So the rules, we kind of talked about the rules, that you can only go backwards, not forwards.
Yeah, but you can change things. Things can be changed.
You're not supposed to change things, but you can change things.
I know. And I guess the biggest don't do is don't touch yourself. Because as soon as you touch yourself, you turn into this blob monster.
So they say the same matter can't occupy the same space.
Yeah.
But in the same space in the sense of touching, not being really close to each other.
Right, yeah, because they
By
get
the
really
way.
close to each other.
They're like inches, but they don't actually touch, so it's good.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm no biologist or whatever, but like our skin cells regrow after a certain amount of years. So like the matter on your hand wouldn't be the same matter as it was 10 years ago. I'm pretty sure. I think isn't that like your skin cells?
Yeah, your bones aren't even the same after every, like 10 years.
Right, like it's totally different cells.
Like at least in Project Almanac, they just kind of disappeared and like glitched and whatever. That to me was like more logical than like becoming a red goopy blob monster and dissolving into thin air.
Yeah.
I was telling you guys, it reminds me, I don't remember the name, but this parody YouTube video where it's made to look like a 90s commercial, and like all these kids, remember the 90s commercials with the Capri Sun, where if you drank Capri Sun, you turned into like a silver liquid blob and like darted off somewhere? Well, in this joke, when I first saw it, I literally thought it was a real Capri Sun commercial until it went really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The kids like turn into liquid blobs, and they go to this park, and the liquid blobs accidentally meld together, and then they come alive, and it becomes like this mutant, deformed, like freakish, like 4 kids in one blob that like spews acid and stuff, and they have to like burn it to kill it. It's hilarious.
If anyone finds that on YouTube, send it to us and we'll put it on our Twitter.
That's the first thing. That's the first thing I thought of when they liquefy. It's like the Capri Sun videos.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
I know, but like, it's one of those things where in an action movie you need to pay off. You need to like have payoff. So it's like they say, "Oh, do you wish you can go back and change things?" To Walker's character, and he's like, maybe or yeah, and then they mention can't occupy the same space. So it's like just they sacrifice logic to have these action payoffs. It's like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which, I mean, in an action movie, that's what you want to see. So I'm not, like, saying it's a bad thing, but for our logic, it's where we kind of notice these issues.
Yeah, there's definitely some plot holes, especially at the end of the movie. But, so we kind of, same matter occupying the same space, that's one of the consequences, so that cannot happen. Another consequence, of course, is ripple effects. So in one time jump, he goes back, changes events in this warehouse, Parker McComb data thing or whatever it is.
Yeah, data systems.
And he goes back to his present day, and it's no longer Parker McComb, it's just McComb, and the TEC is like being shut down, and like no one, like there's a lot of things that are changed.
Yeah,
and,
like the director, they aren't friends.
They
So
aren't
something
friends.
happens when they're not friends.
The girl he traveled with in the first place never worked there. Like there's all this stuff. And somehow the fact that they don't remember her makes him realize that she's still alive in the past. I don't know how that makes sense, but that was
I think it was like, I know she was left in the 90s, so let me go back to the 90s and try to find her.
He shot her like 3 times. How is she not dead, though? I mean, she dies anyway, so it didn't really make that much of a difference. It was just an excuse for him to go back in time again, honestly.
And have like a little moment where like you feel, oh, she has redeemable qualities right before they kill her.
Yeah, there was an point to that, but are there other consequences you guys think?
Well, I mean, yeah, just the changing stuff. Like in the same scene of the warehouse, Walker puts a cut on McComb's face, and you see it like go on his face and on the future version's face, like it just develops into a scar.
It was like the desk in in what's it called, the movie we did recently.
Frequency,
thank you.
And Looper.
And it's
there's a lot of, I want to talk about Looper actually.
Yeah, it's the same trope kind of.
Yeah, so we've seen that before. I do want to talk about Looper because there's a lot of stuff in Looper that I think they took from this movie.
Yeah, bad guys using the technology.
Kind of, duplicate older, younger selves, the whole action thing. Like, there's a lot, if you watch the movie and watch Looper and, like, just think about it, there's a lot of similarities.
Definitely.
Especially with, duplicate selves, I think is the biggest thing. And just how they kind of time travel. It's kind of the same idea. It's bad guys also have control of time travel in that movie,
and, like, time travel's illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Joseph Gordon-Levitt isn't technically a cop, but he's the closest thing in that world to a time cop.
He is.
Yeah.
Time cop, mini time cop, almost time cop.
Yeah. I do also want to talk about Men in Black 3, so I'm sure you guys know what I'm going to say, but in the beginning of this movie, it's like Wall Street and times.
Oh yeah, the falling.
In the late 20s, people fall out the windows, and I'm surprised you didn't make this connection. When they fall out the window and like go back in time
Yeah.
is the same as what happens in Men in Black 3. They were falling out of the
Yeah,
building.
the building. I know. Well, the difference in this one is they fall through a ripple as opposed to like
a time wave of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I know you love that a lot.
I know. Well, I mean, I believe open up a wormhole right in front of you more than watching the world change around you.
What
as you
effects
fall.
does it have when they are constantly opening up different wormholes all over the world, throughout time? Would that create problems in the world?
I mean, I think just in terms of like actually, like okay, in real life, yeah, because you need a lot of energy, and if you were to open up wormholes, you would have to have like tons of energy being going off. If you had something open a wormhole on Earth, even just one of them, it would probably destroy Earth, or we need some energy source that would engulf Earth or something. I don't know. So realistically, any wormhole on Earth would be a bad idea. But in terms of sci-fi rules, I mean, just having the mess of things being changed all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I will say it is very cool and also very random that like when you're sentenced to death, they just take you back and like have you just die in that time.
Yeah, it's pretty creative for I mean, what if the person that was gonna like, I don't know, what if the person sentenced to death wasn't near any like death trap? Like, how would they kill them?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily like where they took them.
It's just like in this
in that particular circumstance, they were falling out of a building. But
they were like, all right, well, we're just going to do that. That'll be easier.
They would probably do it in a way that makes sure that they're actually going to die wherever they're going. But yeah, that was kind of an interesting. I liked the swift justice system of this.
Yeah.
Very swift justice.
Like
no second chances.
Send it to death immediately. Bye. Like, see ya.
You gotta have. It has to be able to have a crime deterrent. So Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Maximum sentences.
Wow, that would be chaos. There are a lot of clocks. There are clocks everywhere, especially in the beginning when she's at the mall. Mia Sarah's at the mall. There's clocks that chime. There's like a shop of clock shop of clocks.
Yeah.
And
talk about time. Everyone's talking about.
There's
if I had
some
enough time.
Yeah, there's time puns.
A lot of time puns.
Scientific accuracy. It's hard because we don't really know what science they use.
Well,
this,
we don't know how they created these time portals. The only thing that we can, I don't know, use in real life is a wormhole. And I guess a ripple can look like a wormhole, more or less, but I don't know. It looks less like a hole than it did in Sound of Thunder. But still, again, you can't just create a wormhole in this little arc and just walk through it and shoot a car through it, have a ripple. I don't know. It's again kind of using a wormhole, like abusing the wormhole idea. Mm-hmm. So it's I don't know. Is it possible to make a wormhole? Theoretically, yes. Like this, no.
Gotcha. Okay.
And especially like when you're getting pulled back, you just have a little pager and you hit a button, you get sucked back into it. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, because like you imagine that, like I don't know, unless the little pager is connected to the wormhole in the present day and it tells you where to put it, but still, you can't just on a whim create a wormhole like that.
Yeah, especially from like a bracelet watch, basically. So how relevant is the time travel to the story? Obviously, it's called Timecop. He's a Timecop. So they do time travel throughout the movie, which is nice.
Yeah, there's a lot more than I thought there would be. Like in terms of like because the opening scene is like we don't really know what's happening. And we see kind of more about a way that it could have happened, which is another issue that I have.
Yeah, I want to talk about that plot hole. So in the beginning of the movie, these bad guys follow him in the mall with his wife, and they end up following them back home. And that night, they come attack him, quote unquote kill him. He's not actually dead, but they think that he's dead, and they go inside and look like, they're gonna kill her too, and then the house explodes.
We don't really know why.
We don't know why. We don't really see much of that details. But at the end of the movie, that scene is revisited again with an older version of Max, and so there's definitely a plot hole with the fact that at the end of the movie, it makes sense for the bad guys to be following Max because they're trying to kill him
Right, because now we're following the older version of him, whereas the first time we see we're following the younger version of him. So again, we don't see everything, but I was telling Jen this, I don't see how the first scene that we see it happen, how that could have played out in any way if the older version of him was there.
Yeah, we were discussing if it was the same scene and we just missed parts of it and didn't see the older version of him versus if it was an alternate timeline.
Yeah, which it obviously wasn't the same thing because different things happened.
Either way, it's a plot hole.
Yeah, but
because it doesn't make sense for the bad guys to be following the younger version of him in the beginning of the movie. So that's where the plot hole comes.
I know, it's like a different timeline where the older version of him wasn't there and McComb still went back to kill him. Like, maybe this was like a different timeline where McComb was like, oh, we had to take out Walker, let's go back and kill him when in the past. You know, and this is like before Walker chased him down or whatever. But again, it's like, does this always happen? Because if it does, then we see it where it doesn't happen that way.
Right.
You know. Which another thing too is at the end of the movie, which I know is a separate issue, but like when his wife doesn't die, I guess he still does take the job because he was going to take it either way. So I guess it is a motivation. So
yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like, would he still? I put in my notes like, would he still join the TEC if his house doesn't explode?
Because he talked about it before all that stuff.
Yeah,
happened.
he does, and he was intending to join earlier that day, and they were talking about time travel, whatever. Because when he mentions it to her, she is familiar with the job, the quote-unquote new job. So. Yeah, so that's a plot.
Yeah, but you know, it isn't as bad as other times because they followed the younger version of him. So there were things that we didn't see, but again, I don't see how. Like, we know that his wife did die in the explosion.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it could have been McComb also there exploding with the building because again, that doesn't affect his plans because whatever, he'd still live in the past. But still, it just irked me. It wasn't like this is a huge plot hole, but it leads to a plot hole that you know, if you think about it enough.
Yeah, for sure. So clothes and sets. There was like comical 2004 technology.
I know.
That lo-fi.
So this movie
sci-fi.
this movie came out in 1994. So for them, 2004, that's 10 years in the future. They have like almost Back to the Future cars.
Yeah, self-driving
sort of
cars.
Thing. Self-driving cars.
So optimistic about the future.
Yeah, smart house technology and
very technology heavy. There wasn't a ton that I was like, oh, that's correct, you know. But
right.
And what's funny is that like it did like the fashion of 2004 did look like 1994, except in a way that 2015 looked like 1985 in Back to the Future 2. Like, it looks like 1985 in 2015, but like, I don't know, futurized. This looked like the clothes looked like 1984, but it's like the same kind of style, like baggy and shoulder pads and all that stuff, but it was like with a techno punk stuff with like cool hair and like flashy colors. It was like the same. It was just 1984 souped up. It wasn't like, I don't know.
There's very few movies that really get future fashion right. I mean, it's a very hard thing to think
obviously,
of.
Yeah.
But clothes really haven't changed that much. Like, if you're going like 10 or 20 years in the future, clothes are not going to change that much.
Yeah.
Like, they really just, and particularly male clothes, are not going to change. Male clothes have been the same for like the last like 200 years.
Yeah.
T-shirt and jeans.
Like, pretty much. So that's always funny. I think actually one of the most accurate predictions of like future fashion have been movies like Minority Report and like iRobot.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, yeah, Will Smith's gonna, even though it's a fun, hilarious scene, when Will Smith is like, oh, these are my fresh, like, 2005, like, vintage. I'm like, but you know what? In 2035, there will probably be people wearing 2005 Converse shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one moment where we're like, oh, they actually did it right was in Click, when his daughter in the future had like the blue hair. That one moment, like, oh yeah, that is a thing now.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
Although not the wedding dress with the lights on it.
No.
They definitely dropped the ball on that one.
That will never happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd never say never.
Now they'll have hashtags and QR codes on dresses.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, another issue I forgot about, I think Jen and I both thought about it, was when he came back to the now a good present, and his wife was alive and his son was born. He didn't appear to have any memory of that life.
Oh, yeah, so it's kind of like
it's
in
always,
Hot Tub Time Machine at the end where he comes back and like there's 10 years of his life and he doesn't really remember it. Like, he sees his son and it's the first time he's seen his son. It's
I know.
It's like
It isn't as bad as Hot Tub Time Machine, where it's like, what is this? He might have just been like in shock, but there's no evidence of him getting memories back, which is my biggest issue.
It definitely comes off as he does not have these memories.
Right. I mean, unlike Hot Tub Time Machine, it's not for selfish reasons. Like, he's saving, like, his wife.
Yeah.
I think if he went to his wife and he was like, hey, so I had to use time travel, like, save your life, so I don't know what happened, like, the last 10 years, I don't think she's going to be like...
Well,
that's what we were going to say, is that...
To say, hey, remember that thing 10 years ago where, like, there's two of me? That's me. I just did that.
Yeah. It's like in Days of Future Past. Right. Yeah.
Like, he could probably talk to her about what just happened. And
Which might happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That could be the next scene.
That happens a lot, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Like, I would have loved to have seen that, or, like, have something where he does say that, and she's like, oh my god, that's you finally, like, that this just happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or, like, have him have a flash of memories. Like, that would have made me like it. But, again, when you come back to your life and you have a new son that you never know, like, you just don't know
He's 10, too. Yeah. That's a long time.
It's like, hey, Dad, remember that secret handshake? No.
Yeah. Right.
But I saved your life.
Yeah, right. And it ends with she's like, I have something important to tell you. So, like, is she pregnant again? Is that what that's implying?
Probably, yeah.
Or she's joining the TEC as well.
That would be cool.
In the never-seen Timecop sequel.
Yeah, right. Would you guys want to experience this time travel?
Well...
That's hard.
The thing is, like, his life is better for it. He's doing it for a good reason. It doesn't seem, other than, like, just don't touch your younger self, it doesn't quite seem to be that dire for you to go back into the past.
Yeah, I would use it for knowledge. So, I would do it.
Yeah, I could do it
just... that bad of consequences.
Yeah, and just be an observer, not, like, try to get rich off of it. Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, if the rules exist as they do in this movie, it doesn't feel like it's, I mean, it is kind of a little bit like Back to the Future, where if you go back, you can change things, but... I don't know, it feels like, unless you make really big changes, like become the new millionaire or like want to be president, you wouldn't change that much of your life, you know? Like, he had a picture of his wife, and it wasn't like his wife started to disappear or whatever, you know?
Right.
Which I kind of thought they would do that, because he was like, here's a picture of you two together. It's like, oh, that'll be useful in the future.
It was very lost.
Yeah. But yeah, so I agree. I think it doesn't seem that dire, and even if I had to be Jean-Claude Van Damme, I still would, because you get his wife back and you get a new son. So
right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Any other notes or anything else you guys noticed about the film?
There was in the same like boardroom scene, I guess to call it. They mentioned Saddam again, because for a couple decades that's the go-to dictator you want to throw in the bus. So like it was in Clock Stoppers, I think, where they're like, we don't want another Saddam to use this to do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it's true.
And another thing too is they had liquid nitrogen, obviously not to slow them down, but someone got his arm frozen off at one point. And
yeah.
like,
well, it wasn't even just his arm. It was like half of his body.
Yeah.
It was like icicles. It was a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
Almost like the mutant gorillas. Yeah. So, any other notes you had?
I have no other notes.
All right.
Yeah, we kind of talked about the action-y stuff, all the things you got to pay off, like the mutant blob thing, and all that stuff.
All right. Should we do final reviews?
Let's do it.
All right. Hi, do you want to start?
Yeah, movie review rating. So, I've seen a lot worse doing this show, and I've seen a lot worse of this genre. There is some craft to this. There are some nice shots. There's some good... The fight scenes leave a little left... I'm with Matt on this one. There's a few fight scenes that leave a little bit more to be desired. But it's not horrible. There was some thought put into this movie. Like, there was clearly some, like, this could have just been a really, really stupid movie. And there is some intelligence to it. Not necessarily good intelligence, but they thought it through. In particular with the plot of the main villain. So it's an interesting concept. Like I said, it's a movie I would love to see remade with today's cinematic sensibilities and technology. So, I don't hate the movie. I don't love the movie. So with all that saying, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I didn't really ever find myself getting into this movie. It was very, like, 90% male heavy. So there wasn't much that I felt I could relate to. I don't really feel like I can relate to Max Walker.
Right.
So
Definitely not fielding.
Yeah, definitely not fielding, and Mia Sarah was basically a joke. So it was like,
yeah, she shot one person.
Yeah,
at one point,
but like,
she's got a kill count.
Yeah, there wasn't, but that was at the end of the movie, and so by then I wasn't in it. There wasn't anything to kind of get me in it. So yeah, I was kind of bored, but I did like Ron Silver, so I'm going to give this 3.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it. As far as action movies go, it was on par with 90s action movies. Van Damme did his splits. You saw his butt. You had these payoffs of the action, and I agree with you, Hyde, where it's like they thought of it enough to, if you're an action movie fan, you won't think about it. If you actually do think about it, like we usually do, you're going to see some pretty glaring things that stand out. Again, the action I didn't like, just because I'm spoiled by solid, real action that I've seen throughout my entire life. And it delivered on the 90s action movie, American action movie that you want to see. But yeah, I agree. It was, I don't know, it didn't pull me in. So I'll give it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah. Time travel?
Look, it's kind of in the same vein. Like, it's not completely stupid. Like, they put some thought into it. Definitely, there's more thought put into this in Sound of Thunder in terms of how time travel works. But it's still very silly time travel. And there's just too many glaring errors for me to, like, turn a blind eye to. There's some things they do well, like we were talking about the flagpole theory. Like, you can't go further into the future. Okay, but for me, the inconsistency of how someone travels through time and gets back really bothers me. Mm-hmm. And the inconsistency on what changes what bothers me. Like, at one point he said, kill Hitler and you could, like, destroy the world. I'm like, okay, that's pretty serious. Like, and you think you're going to get Sound of Thunder, like destruction with, like, changing one thing. Like, if Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, stepped on, like, a butterfly in 1980s, he would, like, destroy the world.
Yeah.
So, but then they don't really deliver on that, and there's a lot of plot holes with that. Mm-hmm. So, I gotta give it a little bit higher, but not that much higher. It's like 2.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of plot holes. The bad guys being there in the beginning of the movie is a plot hole. I liked they can only go to the past, but not the future. Yeah, the rocket time ship, that's a weird problem. And just, so they did use it, though, throughout the movie, and there was an alternate timeline version, so that was kind of interesting to see. But you're right, there wasn't this big threat of, total destruction or something that was more grand than just this guy becoming president who shouldn't be president. And I think that was a big problem. So I'm actually going to agree with you, 2.5 out of 10 for time travel for me.
Yeah, I mean, before you even said your guys' numbers, I was thinking 2.5 as well. For similar reasons, there are things I like that they did. They had some payoff. They set up some things. They put on a tee and they hit it out. Like with the whole same matter can occupy the same space, even though it is silly. They set it up and you see it. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing about, like, you revisit the original scene is a cool idea, and the villains are cool ideas. But all those benefits, they have those same reasons that, like, cause issues. So it's like you get points and you take points away. Right. So you guys kind of covered my biggest issues with them. Again, like to and from the past is a little silly, and yeah, it's it isn't perfect. It isn't great, but again, enough thought. It's sacrificed for the sake of an action movie. The logic is, and those go against it. But again, it's an action movie, and if you're just trying to watch a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, you're not going to think about it. So yeah, 2.5.
Cool. Okay, so our next episode is Hyde's Choice. What'd you pick? Sorry. Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh,
I almost forgot.
You gotta know what the Rotten T thought.
Oh, there's one thing I forgot to mention is, I think, Jen, you pointed this out when we watched it. The end credits song is so out of place.
It was so weird. It was like
It's Time Won't Let Me. It's a cover of that Time Won't Let Me, that song. But it's like, it's just this action movie and this like weird like pop rock song.
Yeah, it was not fitting.
I just thought that was pretty funny.
So this is 43% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics' consensus says it's no Terminator, but for those willing to suspend disbelief and rational thought, Timecop provides limited sci-fi action rewards.
Yeah, that's what we were
pretty
saying.
on point to what we were doing.
Yeah. It's around the 40%. So
yeah, 35% of audiences liked it. So that was. Didn't you say 3? I said 3.5.
Yeah, I said 3.5.
I said 4. I said 5. But we're on the 4.
Yeah,
we're pretty on point. Okay, now Hyde, tell us what you picked for next episode.
I chose a pretty recent movie, Arrival.
Woo!
Directed by Dennis, who's directing Blade Runner and also did
Dennis, what's his last name?
I don't know. I'm not going to.
Villeneuve.
Dennis Villeneuve, who made The Great Prisoners and Arrival, which I enjoyed, and then Sicario, which I did not. But he's 2 for 3. He also made another movie, Jake Gyllenhaal, which was really good. He's a good director. This stars Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, and Forrest Whitaker. It's a very different type of time travel movie. This is going to be a very interesting one. I can expect this one to be more like in terms of Interstellar.
Okay.
More to kind of delve into.
Here's the thing. Hyde has seen it.
We have
Jen
not.
and I have not. I was baffled that this made it on our list, but for the sake of not hitting any spoilers, I have no idea why it's on here. So
yeah, same. But people
we're totally in the blind.
Multiple people have asked me if we've done this movie yet. So
there's clearly something in here, but as of this recording, I have not seen it, and I don't know how it's involved. So
they do a very good job. When I went to go see this movie, I had no idea that there would be some form of time travel incorporated into the story. Otherwise, I would have probably tried to see it with you guys.
Yeah. And we didn't see it because
we just missed it.
We missed it, and and then we didn't see it because we knew eventually we were going to do it after Hyde saw it. So, okay, I do love Forrest Whitaker. That's what I wanted to say.
I mean, I wanted to see this movie because I heard it was a really good sci-fi movie, and it looked like an interesting concept. But now that I know there's more involved than just aliens visiting Earth, I'm more intrigued. I'm
Cool.
looking forward to seeing it finally.
All right. Social media. We are at Time Travel Trio on Twitter and on Instagram. We are on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Please subscribe to us on all of those and rate and review us. We would super appreciate it. Help spread the love and get more people to see what we're all about. So, as I said, we're on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook at the Time Travel Trio Podcast. And I think that's all of our stuff. You can follow us on whatever and send us some love, and we'll post stuff sometimes. That's how that works.
Yeah,
so
we don't go crazy. We have enough to keep you informed.
Yeah, but we don't post like every 10 seconds, so it's not annoying.
You won't get spammed. We're not heroic Hollywood.
Yeah.
If anything,
For
if anything, our Instagram is a time not a time capsule, but like a log of time travel movies that you want to. If you're like, oh yeah, what movies should I watch that time travel? We just everything we cover we put on there, and it's kind of just like a gallery of.
And so you can see what we have up and coming and what we have recently released, and so that's a good place to follow us for that stuff. Personal, I am at not at Time Travel Travel. I'm a little unfocused today with our social media. I am at Jen Marlis on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm at Foreman in Space on those.
And I'm at Robinson is Hyde.
And
with that,
we are out of
time.